Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast brought to you by the Draft Professors. Joined with Anthony Russo. It is bright and early on a Saturday morning. Anthony, it's great to see you. How you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling good. We were talking before. I always enjoyed Saturday morning conversations and position breakdowns. And I enjoy doing offensive line. By no means am I a expert in the craft that is being an offensive lineman, but I enjoy watching them and breaking them down. And so I'm excited to talk about this group that we've got today.
Yeah, so if your grading is any indication, or I should say is similar to what Jerry and Owen have, I think this is going to be a pretty good group right now. Because they had some first round grades in here. But we're going to be going over these 9 offensive linemen: Fabichi Nuewu from Oklahoma, B.J. Williams from Pittsburgh, Chase Basantis from Texas A&M, Viga Aon from Penn State, Lyndon Cooper from Pittsburgh, Bryce Foster from Kansas, Logan Jones from Iowa, Keegan Truss from Missouri, and then we're going to close it out with Ben Taylor Whitfield from TCU. And let's just start with the Oklahoma guard. We haven't covered him on the channel since doing summer scouting and game previews. So I haven't heard much buzz about him, but you can change that right now. What do you think of Fabichi Nuewu?
Yeah, so, first I will say I looked up the pronouncer. I had the time to do it, and it's Fabechi Weewu. You don't pronounce the N. It's just Weewu. So there you go. I learned that because I also would have butchered it if I didn't look it up. So he's fascinating. He is a 3-year. So prior to joining Oklahoma, he's been there for the past 2 seasons. Before that, he walked on at North Texas and was there for 3 seasons. Now is a 5th-year player at Oklahoma. He is one of 3 finalists for the Burlsworth Trophy, which is the trophy that is given to the most outstanding player in college football who was a walk-on. The other 2 finalists being Michael Taft, the safety from Texas, and Drew Mestemaker, the quarterback from North Texas. So clearly, people think highly of him in that regard, and considering he is a walk-on at Texas, I think when you watch him play, you have to be impressed that that's sort of where he came from. Straight out of the gate, you see the build 6'4", 326. This is a big, powerful, mauling guard. The size and power needed to effectively down block is there. He has the mentality of a finisher in the run game. He is not afraid to get his hands on you, drive you backwards, and put you onto the grass or the turf. I think for his size, I think he gets really, it generates good torque, and I think he's able to get actually to seal blocks very well. Good pop in his hands. Again, just all of the strength and power metrics that you'd want to see in a guard are there for him. I think the issues come when you watch him, I'd say particularly in pass pro. I think he plays out in front of his skates too much. A lot of bending. Doesn't have that natural flexibility that you like to see. I think he loses leverage a lot. I would be concerned if he were, in the NFL playing against these more sort of undersized but athletic kind of 3 techs that we've seen kind of crop up lately. The Keylan Canseys of the world. I would be concerned about that matchup. I also think, it's not somebody that you're going to see getting to the second level a lot. Doesn't really have that natural quickness and agility. I don't think, and I also think he's late to recognize blitzes. It feels a tick slow sometimes in that regard. And for a 5th-year player. I'm not thrilled with that. This is somebody who I think if you have a downhill gap man blocking scheme, I think you can bring him in as like a day 3 guy, and he can be a depth piece for you. But not somebody I would say is probably going to be a long-term starter. But with the size and build and strength that he has, I think could be on a roster for some time.
Okay. So day 3 on Fabechi Weewu.
Yes.
BJ Williams from Pittsburgh, 6'4", 320 is what I had at PFF.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have on BJ Williams?
Yes, there's some similarities here between BJ and Fabechi. You see it here too, like 6'4", 320. This is another bigger, sort of power-focused guard. I think his pop and power in his hands, pops, no pun intended, on film. You see that just initial jolt that he can create off the line of scrimmage. I think one of the things that I would say separates him from Fabechi is I think he actually anchors pretty well in pass protection. And I would also probably say he lacks foot speed and lacks quickness and flexibility on the interior. But I feel a little better about him in pass protection at the next level than I would Fabechi. I do also think for somebody who is, I think he has a powerful build, and I think he is a strong player. I wish I saw a little bit more nastiness in the run game. I don't think he has. So where with Fabechi, I think you see that finisher side of him, that mean streak. I don't see enough of that with BJ. I think, again, like he has the build for it. It just doesn't show up as consistently on tape as you would if you watch that Notre Dame game, for example. Like, I just don't see him getting movement in the run game, and they really just, Pittsburgh did not win the line of scrimmage in that game, and that's kind of part of the reason why they got blown out of the stadium. So BJ is, to me, another day 3 player. Again, like I would like him as well in that sort of downhill blocking scheme, but I think he gives you a little more natural athleticism and a little more in pass pro than Fabechi would. He is also, I will say, a junior, so this is somebody who ideally probably doesn't even come out, probably is a 2027 guy. I would be pretty surprised if he got the grades, because for those who don't know, if you're asking the NFL basically whether or not you should come out, you get either a round 1 grade, a round 2 grade, or return to school. So if you are a round 3 or lower player in the NFL's eyes, you're going to be told to return to school. I would be stunned if BJ Williams got grades that weren't return to school. So in that regard, I think he's back next year. Can work on that consistency in the run game, and could, I think, develop into a nice day 2 player. But I just don't think he's there at this point.
Yeah, and I think Pittsburgh has, because I think we're covering Lyndon Cooper here and a few players, but Pittsburgh has 3 offensive linemen, and I think 2 of the 3 could get returned to school grades, including BJ Williams. So if you are a fan of offensive linemen, and that's something that your team needs, Pittsburgh has 3 really good prospects, but 2 of them are probably 2027.
Yeah, Ryan Baer is the other one. He plays left tackle for them now. Probably kicks inside at the next level because of athletic limitations. But yes, I agree. Like Pittsburgh is very quietly putting together like a nice offensive line group that I think all 3 of them are guys that'll wind up on NFL rosters at some point.
So Chase Besantis, likely one of the stars of this episode. Texas A&M guard, 6'5", 315. My understanding is he may have played a little bit of tackle last year, but he is definitely a guard now at Texas A&M.
Correct. Yeah. So he played right tackle, I believe, in 2023 for the Aggies when he was a freshman, and he really struggled. He did not play well as a starting right tackle. Probably also part of that is he was a freshman. But I think it also kind of speaks to some of the issues I think he has as a player. But I mean, this is someone who you see his ability to be flexible and get leverage as a blocker is one of the best. He's one of the best in this class when it comes to that. Just he plays naturally low and is able to get under guys and move them. He doesn't have like the brute strength that we were just talking about with Fabechi and BJ and other. We're going to talk about somebody else that just is the definition of brute strength. But what he lacks in that natural strength, he just makes up for in just solid technique and solid leverage and fundamentals in that regard. He has a great snatch trap technique as a blocker. He got called for. So one of the knocks on him is he has 6 penalties this year, which isn't great. But one of those penalties was in this past week against South Carolina, and he got flagged for like a textbook snatch trap technique that like you would use his rep to teach offensive linemen how to effectively do the snatch trap technique. And he got penalized. And then the rules analyst on, I think it was ABC, whatever network it was, basically said like, oh yeah, he should have been flagged. That was nonsense. There's no reason that Chase Besantis should have been flagged on that play specifically. Now, the issue with the penalties I think you do see is if he doesn't win and gets beat off the line of scrimmage, he will grab and he will try to just hug you as opposed to trying to be able to or being able to recover and get his hands in front of you. That happens a little too much for me. But I think I don't think he's a bad athlete. Like you see him finish in space really well. He has the foot speed, I think, for blitz pickups as well. You'll see him working across the line of scrimmage. I think it was the Missouri game where, because he plays left guard, so he starts at left guard and it's a pass play and he's in pass protection, and there's a corner blitz coming off the right side, and he works all the way to the right side and destroys the corner. I mean, the corner's probably 190 pounds and he's 315. So he just basically just ends his life on that play. But it's not even the power really that you're impressed by. It's just his ability to get from the left to the right side in the span of about 3 to 4 seconds and finish the block as cleanly as he did. I think was the big part of that. But so I talked about the penalties. I talked about the grabbing. I want to see that kind of come to a stop a bit. That also kind of just feels like a Texas A&M thing. Like Armaj Reed Adams is one of the worst guys when it comes to getting penalized, and he plays right guard for them. So I don't know if it's just a coaching thing with them as well. But sometimes I think the initial hand placement, it doesn't always land, which also kind of leads itself to the grabbing and losing a step on defenders. I think there are also times where he sort of overcommits in the run game, and guys are able to cut backside behind him to be able to get behind the line of scrimmage. So there's things I think he needs to clean up, particularly again in the run game. But I like him as a potential starting guard in the NFL. Like I see that. I see that for him. I would have like probably early mid third round grade is kind of where I'm at. I think people are going to be higher on him than I am at this point. There's, again, like there's another guard on here that I would be comfortable taking in the first round. I'm not there with Basantis yet. I'm honestly not even sure if he's the best guard prospect on his own team, which might be a little controversial for some people. But he's a good player. Again, like third round, I see the vision of him being a starter down the road. I think he just needs to clean up some stuff a bit before I'm willing to get there. And he's also a junior too. So the option to go back to school is there. I get the sense that people are going to grade him out higher than I will, and so declaring probably is more on the table for him than like with BJ we talked about. But overall, yeah, like good quality player that I think is going to be a top 100 pick probably at the very least.
Yeah, and my comment would be, listen to what Anthony just said. There were 2 or 3 things that I would like to point out. Anthony said something to the effect of, this is an eventual NFL starter at guard. Right? So really the question from the evaluation is, how soon does he start? Like, if he's drafted to a team, like the Bills or the Eagles that are in the playoffs, does he start year one? Versus if he's drafted, let's say, by the Jets or by the Texans, which need offensive linemen, is he starting year one? Though that might be a different conversation. But you did say that you profile Chase Basantis as an NFL starter, right?
Yeah, he has that ceiling for sure. And yeah, if he were the Texans' second or third round pick, for example, probably has a good chance to start right away. I don't know if I would say I want him starting day one because he's that good, but yeah, the ceiling is there to be a starter, and then from there it kind of just boils down to what you would value as what draft pick would a starting guard be for you, and I'm not. Yes. He's not like a Quentin Nelson or like one of these guys that's going to be like an all-pro guard. I don't think. I don't think he's like an all-pro guard kind of prospect. So if we're just talking about like your standard fare, good starting guard that that isn't going to be a liability for you, I would probably say like day 2 is what we're looking at. So that's kind of where the third round grade winds up coming from.
Okay, so the reason I was pointing out that Anthony's scouting report specifically said Chase Basantis is a starting guard. The debate when Jerry and Owen covered Basantis was, is he higher than Vega Ione from Penn State? So I'm assuming this is the player that Anthony was referring to when there was another player in this episode that he teased a second ago. Mm-hmm. So, Anthony, I'm going to let you do Vega, and then we're going to go back and we're going to talk about Vega and Basantis together. But I'm going to kick this back to you.
Yeah, I do think that's for this episode. I do think that is the conversation to be had. I don't know where Jerry and Owen fell on that. But yeah, man, here we go. Olaivavenga Ioane. I'm so sorry if that's wrong. Funny enough, I kind of hated him in summer scouting. I watched him over the summer, and I thought he was, big and strong and powerful and all that. But I thought he was slow. I even used the word clunky. I just did not think the athleticism and the foot quickness and all that, I just did not think it was there. I had a mid day 3 grade on him over the summer. This year, I think he's lost weight. He was initially listed at 335. He's now listed at 328. I've even seen some people say 323. So I'm led to believe, and we won't know until we get official measurements, but I'm led to believe that he's lost 10 to 15 pounds this past off season, And I think it shows up because he looks a lot more comfortable when it comes to just moving around on the line of scrimmage and being able to cover ground and hit his markers and and being able to effectively block on the move and not just sort of in the phone booth, as we like to say. That said, I think the best thing about him is still what it was for me over the summer, which is just like he is like visibly large. I think particularly his lower half is just so big and powerful, and he generates just so much strength from his lower half. You will see a lot of guys just not able to move him, and a lot of guys will get moved off the line of scrimmage. I feel like there's multiple examples this year where you'll see like the Penn State offensive line, off the snap, and the quarterback drops back, and whether it's Aller or whoever it is these days, but you'll see like the offensive line is like four of them are where they started basically when the play started. All four of them have their man, and they're creating sort of the pocket that you would imagine for a quarterback. And then you see Ioane like 2-3 yards at least up the field, like because he's moved his man that far away from the quarterback to like protect him. So like just the raw strength that he has to move people just so easily is so great. I think his hand usage has gotten a lot better too, which was something that I was worried about. I felt like over the summer he kind of just relied on the strength and didn't really worry about technique and hand placement and having active hands, and just relied on just, I'm stronger than you, I'm going to move you. Now I feel like he's incorporating more technique as well as just that raw strength, and you're seeing a lot more success, I would say, particularly when it comes to in the run game, just being able to get out in space and create movement, and open up run lanes that unfortunately aren't always available because the box gets crowded because they can't throw the football, but that's not really his problem. But I think a lot of the issues I had over the summer are rectified, and that's why now I would say I think he's my guard one for players who are playing guard at this moment in time. I would say like Francis Maui-Noa projects as a higher guard prospect, but obviously he's playing right tackle. I think Ioane is like the number one guard, like pure guard prospects that you're going to see playing guard in college football right now. A hell of a fun player that, like, again, I think he's just going to get to the NFL and just put people on their behinds, and it's going to be a joy to see.
You had it as Ione?
I think it's Ioane. Is what I've heard. Yeah,
Ioane. So the discussion with Jerry and Owen was Ioane definitely has a higher ceiling than Basantes.
Yep, I agree.
But one of the other things, I think Jerry pointed this out, Ioane has only been playing football, I believe, for 4 years.
Yes, that is true. He has only played 2021, I think, is when he started, yeah.
And, okay, so again, listen to go back and rewind the podcast. Listen to a couple things that Anthony said about Basantes. One of the things Anthony said was Basantes projects as an NFL starter. But Anthony also said he didn't see a Pro Bowl player in Basantes. He sees a starter, but not like there was nothing. You actually specifically, without even me prompting you, you didn't say like you specifically said Basantes is not going to be an All-Pro guard. He's going to be a starting guard, but not an All-Pro guard. Do you remember saying something like that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
That's where I stand.
So Basantes, his floor right now may be higher than Vega. But
sure.
Vega has a ceiling that may or may not get reached And I never heard Anthony say that this isn't a Pro Bowl guard. He didn't say he was, but he also didn't say that he is not.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
yeah,
Because there's some unknown here.
I'll say I think if you're asking me which of Ioane or Basantis is going to be a Pro Bowler, if you tell me one of them is going to be a Pro Bowler, I would tell you it's Ioane. I think he has that ceiling. And again, I think it just comes down to more consistency, just more power overall, more consistency in the run game. And I think his development from where I thought he was over the summer, and I feel like most people had him like as like a day two at best kind of player. I don't think he was getting round one top 50 grades as much, at least, as I think he is now. But I think from where I had him to now what I've seen, and because I think too, like, he's doing it against like NFL caliber interior defensive linemen, and obviously Basantis is in the SEC, he's playing NFL defensive linemen too, but I've just been more impressed with what Ioane's done against his Big Ten competition than I have with what Basantis does against his SEC competition.
Yeah, so as we go through the draft cycle, I'm going to pay attention to like where everybody has both graded. Jerry and Owen had first round grades on both. So they were looking at like you can take them on day one. You're getting a starting NFL offensive lineman. But at the same time, guards do tend to fall. So even like a player like Osiris Torrance, a lot of people had like late first round buzz, but he ends up falling to almost the back of the second round. So this happens quite frequently with guards, is that they'll drop even if they're projected to be an immediate starter. So,
and I think you're right. I will say though, we did just have Tyler Booker went 12 to Dallas, and Donovan Jackson went 23, I think it was, to Minnesota. So.
Right.
I do think there is a little bit of a narrative shift, especially too. One of the things that when I wrote my Substack for my midseason positional rankings, like I did top tens in each position, and one of the things I wrote was I won't be totally stunned if somebody who is projected to play on the interior offensive line goes before somebody who is going to play offensive tackle. Now, I cheated a little because I think Mawanoa is an interior player, and I think that would be the person that does that. But like, I think if a team, if you're a team like Cincinnati or a team like Houston that needs guard, I think more than tackle, like they need offensive line, but I think it's mostly interior is the problem. So if you're Cincinnati or Houston sitting at in like the 13 to 18 kind of range, Cincinnati is probably going to be higher, but like if you're in that range, and you say to yourself, all right, we think Ioane is going to be a Pro Bowl guard, versus this tackle class isn't great. I mean, it also just depends who comes out and who doesn't, but like, other than like Spencer Fano, and like Caden Proctor's, I guess, rebuilding his draft stock, but I'm not convinced he's that great. But I won't be stunned if a team just like looks at Ioane and says, yeah, man, this is a Pro Bowl guard. Our guards are terrible. Let's just fix that. Like we've seen in Cincinnati how much a bad interior offensive line just creates problems for the entire offense. And not to mention hurting your star quarterback. So, like, I won't be surprised if an Ioane or a Basantis or somebody, or like an Emmanuel Pregnon, who we're not talking about here, but he's another guard getting potential first round love. Like, I think they could be top 20 picks, and in this particular class, I'm not convinced that an offensive tackle might not go in the first like top 15.
Yep. Okay. So then Next player, also from Pittsburgh, Lyndon Cooper. And I believe it's listed as interior offensive line. I believe Lyndon Cooper is the Pittsburgh center. What else do you have on Lyndon Cooper?
Yeah, so he plays center now. Does have experience at all three interior spots, but center's been his home for the past 2 years since he's been at Pitt. He transferred there from NC State a couple years ago. Played the 2024 and now the 2025 season for Pitt as a fifth-year senior. This is somebody who I kind of had as a sleeper in summer scouting. I didn't see him getting like any kind of talk when it came to like the top centers in this class. I think most of the discussion was Connor Lew, who unfortunately had the ACL injury. Jake Slaughter from Florida was getting first round love, and I think that's kind of died down a bit. But in terms of like top centers, like nobody was talking about Lyndon Cooper. So when I watched him over the summer, I was like thoroughly impressed. He went up against Peter Woods, who has had a down year, but I still think is a top 10, 15 player overall in this class, and like handled him well. Like didn't win every single rep, but you're just not going to do that against somebody like Peter Woods. But like was able to he kept him at bay. I think how he did it was you just saw the hands were active and engaged and was able to mirror well on the interior. I think it helps actually that in some ways I think it helps he's only 6'2", because I think that allows him to just have like a naturally good pad level and to naturally get under guys' pads and win with that leverage. I think he does that really well, and I think it helps too, like, because I think one of the things with him is he just lacks strength. I think he particularly just lacks like core strength. Like you'll see him too, like he'll get moved back like a couple yards off the line of scrimmage a little too easily if he's not able to get his hands on the inside of guys. And I want to see him just get more from like his lower half and be able to drive forward more. I think he does lack in that regard, but this dude's a competitor too. You'll see him hustling to get downfield, hustling to get out in space and get to his landmarks. So I like the competitor as well. I also think he just does have like good football acumen, and I think he understands assignments and giving leadership and guidance to the players around him and being able to help understand protections and things like that, which is important for the center position in particular. So this is somebody I think he's I think I'm going to wind up with an early day 3 grade on him. If you told me he sneaks into the top 100, I wouldn't be like completely floored by that. And I kind of want to see how he finishes out the year. Whether or not, I don't know the ACC standings off the top of my head. I don't know if Pittsburgh is still in it to potentially get to the ACC title game. But they're a good football team. They'll get to a good bowl game that I hopefully we can see him playing as well. But I think he's a good potential starting center in the NFL. Like I could see that for him. I see just like the hands and feet are good and athletic and has that movement that you want to see in an NFL player. So I like him, I think, quite a bit. And if he's not in your center rankings as of now, I think he definitely should be, especially now too. Again, Connor Lew is basically out of the equation now with all but guaranteed to go back to school. So I think the center class in particular is going to be a little thin. And I would say Cooper is somebody that if a team needs a true center, he's going to get some looks.
And I looked it up while you were discussing Cooper. So Pittsburgh is currently 4th in the ACC.
That whole conference is a mess.
According to the ACC website.
All right,
so
there you go.
That is yours. Okay. Next player. Bryce Foster, the center from Kansas. Where are you on Bryce Foster right now?
Yeah, so Bryce Foster, we talk about, you've heard me say, like, this guy's athletic. This is a good athlete. This is somebody who's whatever. This guy is an athlete, and he's a very different kind of athlete. This is somebody who is a shot put champion, also played discus in high school. He won junior Olympic gold medals in the shot put. Like, this is somebody who probably could have at least tried to be an Olympian if he really wanted to. Like, that's the kind of athlete that we're talking about. And where I think, you wonder, like, how does shot put and discus help, when we're talking about football players. I think it's when you talk about, like, generating torque and being able to quickly turn your body and rotate your body to get to blockers. If you're out in space and you have to turn your body to get in front of someone and seal the edge off, that's kind of, and still generating power in the process. That's kind of where I think you can imagine that kind of background would come into play. And I think you could see that too, like, that athletic background shows up in those kinds of situations. This is another player. This is Kansas's center, and Kansas has a pretty quietly deep draft history, I would say, or at least like NFL prospect history on the offensive line in particular. Like Dominic Pooney, for example, it was just the latest sort of revelation. I think who went third or fourth round. I think it was third round, and like now is like one of San Francisco's best offensive linemen. So Kansas knows how to develop these guys, and Foster, fifth-year senior, has sort of kind of become the leader of the line at the center spot. Another guy, I think he does well when it comes to identifying, blocking assignments and communicating with the guys on the offensive line. Does well to sense out blitzes and late rushers and get to them because of that athleticism that he has. I think the big concern, he has 31-inch arms, which for even somebody who is an interior player is still very much on the shorter side of things. And I think where that arm length shows up is when he needs to deal with just straight up power, straight up speed to power, or straight up just, big, strong 300-pound guys trying to just move him out of the way. That arm length combined with, I think, just some lacking natural strength allows him to just easily get displaced out off his spot a little too regularly. I think there are times where he struggles to land blocks, particularly on the move and on pulls and traps and things like that. There's one play in the Arizona game this past week where he basically just is coming on a pull and just completely misses the angle on the Arizona defender coming through the B gap, and just that, he just whiffs completely, and that defender just blows right past him and gets the tackle for loss on the running back. So it's things like that. Like, I think he's an NFL athlete. I just kind of wonder if he has the NFL strength and frame and measurements needed to last a long time in the league. I think at this point, because of that athletic profile, I would be fine like mid to late day 3. And you could take a chance on him there. And with with that experience that I talked about too, is worthwhile. But I just don't think he has the length and the strength and just the NFL. I don't think he has enough just natural ability to be able to last in the NFL.
Okay. Says Bryce Foster from Kansas. So this is one of Clint Gose's guys. Clint will go on a rant about Logan Jones, the center from Iowa. This is one of Clint Gose's guys. This is the first time we have discussed Logan Jones this draft cycle on this channel. But Anthony, tell the people what they're going to like about the center from Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to like, again, I feel like I'm using the word athletic a little too much, but like this dude, I'm just going to read Bruce Feldman's Freaks List bio on Logan Jones. Set the program record this past offseason with a 705-pound squat. Holds the position record with, allegedly, I'm throwing that in, allegedly, a 36.6-inch vert, a 153 10-yard split, and a 409 shuttle. Listen, he's undersized. He's not, he is 300 pounds, like exactly 300 pounds, and he honestly might even be lighter than that. If he's jumping a 36-inch vert at 290 pounds, that's insane. I would love to see that with my own eyes at the combine. And if he does, more power to him. But that, I will say, even if that number might be a tad bit, a little exaggerated, he is a very good athlete. His lower half, I talked about like the 705-pound squat and the 36-inch vert, and I will say you could understand where that number could potentially be true because his lower half is so strong. You see him generating that strength from his lower half in the run game, both on the line of scrimmage as sort of just at his spot, and also when he gets out on the move and in space and has to get his hands on defenders and keep them moving in the run game. That lower half strength is there for sure. I think when I watched him against Iowa State, like he had some good reps against Big Citrus, Dominique Orange. Yep. He was in there, and obviously too, like that whole offensive line is full of potential NFL players, particularly on the right side. It's him, Cade Piper, and Jennings Dunker, who are all just the beefiest run blockers you could possibly imagine on an offensive line. So like Iowa clearly, if you didn't already know, Iowa has an identity and they stick to it. But even for somebody who is, again, undersized, even for the center position, I do think he has some good strength. It's not, it's average. I would say it's average play strength. You want to see him still get more out of his upper body and be able to get his hands on guys, show some pop in his initial punch, and be able to control defensive linemen at the line of scrimmage more consistently. I will say too, he can be an absolutely nasty finisher, again, particularly when he's out on the move, and can get his hands on guys, generating from his lower half, and just keeps, guys are just going to fly around the field if he wins the rep. So, you do love to see that too. He's got below 31-inch arms. If you thought Bryce Foster was bad, we're talking about Logan Jones' verified 30 and 6/8-inch arms, which again, just even for a center, is not even remotely ideal. And again, I think that lends itself to similar to what we talked about with Bryce Foster, where because he has already lacking physical strength and power in his upper frame or his upper body, and then also has shorter arms. Now you're talking about guys who can just win off the line of scrimmage with length and power, and he just doesn't have any kind of answer for it because he lacks in both regards. So you are going to want him in a zone blocking scheme to get out in space where he doesn't have to win with length and power, on the interior and moving downhill. He can get out in space, create some angles and create some leverage and some natural, win with his athleticism as opposed to winning with power and length and physical dominance. That's where I think you kind of have to, utilize him best. I really wanted to say he was a day 2 player. I just can't with sub 31-inch arms. Like it's just too concerning for me for somebody who already lacks that power as a blocker. I think I kind of have to say he's a early day 3 guy, but again, if he gets into the top 100 and goes to a team that thrives in an outside zone scheme where he can win in space, I'll be okay with it. But I worry the physical limitations feel like they're gonna catch up to him.
Yeah, he sounds like a San Francisco 49er.
He does sound like a San Francisco 49er, yeah.
And they have a 33-year-old center. I was looking it up. As soon as you started giving the scheme, I immediately said, hey, does San Francisco need a center? So,
could certainly see
okay,
it.
we're closing out the show with 2 offensive tackles. This is the first time the channel has covered Keegan Trost, the tackle from Missouri. What did you see when you watched Trost?
Yeah, so Keegan Trost plays right tackle for Missouri. This is his 7th year of college football. He started in 2019 at Morgan State. Played there for a year. 2020 didn't happen, because of the COVID season, obviously. After that, he transfers to Indiana State, plays there for a couple years, then goes to Wake Forest, plays there for a year. And then this past year, now has transferred to Missouri for his 7th season, is the starting right tackle there. And I think he's a good player in terms of, I think he has good movement skills. I think he's a smart, you see the experience that he brings as a blocker. I think he rarely is giving up his chest and has just good hand placement in general in pass protection. Again, I think he moves well. I think he has generally decent to good foot quickness and able to, cover ground well in his pass sets. I think he can block. I think he gets to the second level decently well and is able to block in space fairly well. I think I don't have a number. I don't think he has. I think he has sub 33-inch arms, and so therefore I don't think he's a tackle in the NFL. I think he's a guard prospect, and when you combine that with the fact that he's going to be 25 years old on draft night, I don't think he is particularly great in the run game. I think he lacks grip strength. I don't think he gets enough movement as a run blocker. Being able to push guys off their spot and being able to just win with just some strength and some power in his game. I also think in pass pro, I think speed to power can be a problem for him. Again, just because he kind of lacks that, he lacks the strength and then just has that shorter, more compact kind of frame. He doesn't really have the arm length to beat to handle guys on speeds of power, and also dealing with the bendy edge rushers that can get to his outside shoulder. So I think he kicks to the inside anyway, but 25-year-old guard prospect playing in his 7th year of college football, I think he's decent, but factoring all of those things in, I would probably have him as a UDFA right now. I don't think I think there are other guard prospects in this class that offer more athletic and physical upside, and will be 2 or 3 years younger than Trost is at this point.
Well, I appreciate you checking out Trost. The last player that we're covering is Ben Taylor Whitfield, the tackle from TCU. He does have more college eligibility left, so I think he goes back to school. But what do you think?
I 100% agree. I think he goes back to school. I'll say this first. So this year at TCU, started at right tackle, played I think it was like 6 or 7 games at right tackle. There was an injury, so got moved to left tackle. Has played there since, and has played well. And I think there's just sort of a natural tackle build and frame that he has that lends itself well to the position. He's 6'6", 300. Definitely needs to fill out more, and you can see that in his play. I think his anchor is lacking. I also think he waist bends a lot and just plays high a lot. Isn't really getting flexible and bending well, or as well as you'd like. But the foot speed and movement is there. This is a good athlete, and again, somebody who is, I think, definitely still filling out his frame. So if he can get up to 320 and still have that, he's still 6'6". I think he has the length. Again, I don't have a number verified, but I would wager that he has adequate arm length at least for the tackle position in the NFL. But I think a lot of it is just technique. Overextends in his pass sets a lot. He just frankly just stumbles a lot, and I think it's just him just trying to, his head is quicker than his feet sometimes, and is trying to get to his spot that his body can't get to comfortably. But I'll say right now, if he theoretically declared, I don't think he will, but if he declared, he's probably a mid-day 3 developmental tackle because you like the upside potential, and he's a younger player, and he's flashed some good things. If he goes back to school, as I expect him to, and fills out, gets up to 315, 320, and can work on, more natural, comfort in his pass sets and getting more flexibility and being able to, just be more consistent and technically sound at the tackles as a left tackle. I mean, I don't think top 50 next year at least is out of the question. I think he would definitely. I think he would be on that trajectory for sure, and kind of show the development that we've seen from guys like Max Iheanachor this year. I think is an example where he was a projection during summer scouting, I think, and people wanted to see him develop, and I think he's developed nicely and is starting to really put it together. I think Ben Taylor Whitfield needs that one more season of putting it together. I'd also be interested if he potentially were to transfer from TCU and go to a stronger Power 5 program that needs a left tackle. I I'd be potentially interested in that. And if he were to go to, like a LSU or I'm trying to think who would potentially need a left tackle next year. Alabama, if to replace Proctor, maybe. Any kind of if he were to go to an SEC or a Big Ten school that needs a left tackle and fills out his frame and improves his pass sets, all the makings of a potential first round left tackle. So for that reason and just overall play in general, I don't think he's in this class, but a very interesting player, I think, to watch for the next 12 months.
So I really like when, independent podcasters, so between Anthony, Owen, Jerry Ostrowski, you guys sounded almost identical on Ben Taylor Whitfield. And to add to that, so TCU has Josh Hoover, who is probably returning to school at quarterback. And they have Jordan Dwyer, who is probably getting a return to school at wide receiver and won't have to share targets with Eric McAllister, who's definitely in this draft class. So TCU's offense, if Ben Taylor Whitfield returns to TCU, they have highly draftable players at very key positions at quarterback, left tackle, and wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to pay attention to that. And then we also should talk about, we talked about Carter Smith from Indiana, who's a tackle. He's probably getting a return to school. Caleb Lomu from Utah. We're not sure if he's in this class or returns to school. Trevor Gooseby, not sure if he's in this class, returns to school. But there's some left tackle prospects next year that sound right now more appealing than the left tackle prospects this year.
Oh, yeah. I think, as I have it now, you brought up Lamu and Gooseby. They are, if they both declare, and I don't think they will, but if they were both to declare, they are my number 1 and number 2 left tackle prospects in this class. Now, if they don't, that is going to leave a massive void at the position. And we'll probably see guys rise up. Obviously, like Caden Proctor would probably be the consensus left tackle one. And then like Casfano's going to play on the right side. Mauanoa would play on the right side. But overall, I think the tackle position is very shaky at best for this coming class. And as you said, 2027 with Lamu getting another year, Gooseby getting another year, guys like Ben Taylor Whitfield getting another year. Isaiah World, I think, is he a senior? Now I forget. But there's I feel better about needing a left tackle next year than I would this coming year is basically the short end of it.
Okay. And one of the things I was telling Anthony backstage before we went live is, hey, let's do a mock draft here at the end of the podcast. I expected us to finish the offensive lineman before the 58-minute mark. But, just sometimes that happens. So we're going to pull out the Draft Professor Simulator. And Anthony, being a Jets fan, we are going to do a first-round challenge for Anthony's New York Jets. So a first-round challenge is 5 unique one-round drafts. And Anthony will not be able to pick the same player in any of the mocks. So he has to have 10 good options for his New York Jets.
Which shouldn't be too hard because the Jets need so many things. So I'm sure we could come up with 10.
Okay. So the first 4 picks were Tate, Bain, Mendoza, Simpson.
All right. Well, it would have been Mendoza would have easily been the first pick. that I would have done. I think the first sort of hurdle to clear, so to speak, is if we're just going to consider every quarterback that's draft eligible as on the table for the Jets here. I'm the Dante Moore discussion is obviously like, will he go back to Oregon or not? There are reports that he's already planning to do that. Other people saying it's not 100% set in stone, so who knows? If we're in the world where Dante Moore is in this class, and this is the scenario where Mendoza and Simpson are gone, the Jets, I believe that they should take a quarterback in 2026. I know that's also not the majority opinion. But in this particular scenario, I would take Dante Moore and work to build the offense around him.
Okay. So then after Dante Moore went to the Jets at 5, Arvell Reese, Mansour Delane, Spencer Fano, Caleb Downs, Francis Maui Noah, Peter Woods, Jeremiah Love, TJ Parker, Jordan Tyson, Casey Concepcion, Vega. Okay. Vega went.
Big Vega.
Yeah. Besantis went. Sadiq, Falk, World, Boston, Abney, Lemon, Lululu, Bailey, Anthony Hill, CJ Allen are off the board.
All right, so from here, Drew Aller. No. From here, I think you can go one of two thought processes. Is get a receiver to help Moore and to really to help Garrett Wilson, because that man's doing the Lord's work trying to be our wide receiver one these days. So him, a wide receiver to help him, or you go and address the defensive line. You've obviously moved Quinnen. I already think pass rusher kind of needed an upgrade. So I think those would be your 2 points of attack. Which receivers have gone so far?
So Lemon's off the board, Boston's off the board, Casey Concepcion is off the board, Tyson's off the board, and Tate is off the board. So 5 wide receivers have gone. No, Randall has a first-round grade on Elijah Surratt, but I don't know if you're that high on him.
I'm not. If it was a wide receiver here, it's probably Chris Bell, who I actually, excuse me, I also think actually would fit the Jets really nicely, giving them that sort of, a guy that can win after the catch more consistently. And, we would, I think Tanner Engstrand would want to scheme touches and scheme opportunities for him, and then allow him to use that 225 frame, with the 4.4 speed to be able to, again, just win in space and win after the catch. But I also do think wide receiver is just so deep that I'm okay with waiting. The Jets have multiple second-round picks as well. So we can go look at D-line. I want to look at the edges.
So edges.
I mean, it would probably be Cassius Howell.
Yeah. So the question is, how high are you on Cassius Howell versus Zion Young versus Mateo Ugalele?
Yeah, I think Uiagalele is probably the highest graded player here for me of the edges. I think Howell's arm length just scares me, man. I can't with the sub 31-inch arms. Which is I guess just the theme of this episode is everybody has short arms. But yeah, Howell's arm length scares me. I want to get more. I want to get more up front. So we can go. Let me look. No, let me look at the D tackles before and then I'll lock in a final answer here because I actually do. Yeah, I do love these.
Washington and McDonald are available. Big Citrus is
Big
available.
Citrus, Miller, Kit Banks. This group is so much more talented to me. Like this defensive tackle group that we're looking at has a lot more upside to me than the edge group we were just looking at. So actually, I'm gonna go D tackle. I'm gonna take Amari Washington. I think, he is just so freakishly athletic and gifted for being 330 pounds. I think Aaron Glenn would love to work with him, and kind of make him his version of Quinnen Williams. I think if you get, it also just works out that we're going to take 2 Oregon Ducks in this scenario. But yeah, that Dante Moore and Amari Washington are 2 like potential, I mean, obviously you hope Moore is, but like they're both like franchise players. I think potentially.
Okay. So that was a first round challenge. That was one round mock that Anthony just did. So the simulator immediately goes into another 1 round draft. It makes sure that Dante Moore, who was Anthony's pick last time, is picked before his turn now. So in this case, the first 4 picks were Bain, Moore, Simpson, Mendoza.
Yeah, so here there's not a quarterback I would take at 5th overall with Simpson and Mendoza and Moore off the board. And so if that's the case, then I think we are gonna, pretend that this is a punt to 2027 scenario for the quarterback position. And so with that, I think wide receiver has to be the pick. You're getting wide receiver 1 in this scenario, whoever that is for you. For me, I'm going to take Carnell Tate. I would have 0 issue if it was him, Lemon, or Tyson. I think all of them are potentially top 10 picks. Tyson's medicals are starting to creep me out a little bit. And honestly, Lemon probably is a better fit to give them a different dimension in the offense. But I just think, just draft Ohio State wide receivers. Like, are we really at a point where we're just going to not do that? Like, just don't fix what isn't broken.
Okay. And then Maui Noah, Reese, Delane, Fano, Woods, Downs, Tyson, Love, Parker, Vega, Falk, Sadiq, Concepcion, World, Tiernan, Abney, Boston, Terrell. It makes sure that Washington, who was your first round pick last time, is off the board before your pick. Styles, Lemon, McCoy are off the board. What do you do?
Man, I want to do Cole Payton for the memes, but I'm not going to do it. I think we can. The Jets just have so many needs all on the defense. They literally, again, just traded their 2 best defensive players. So you honestly could probably argue any defensive position and you have a point. So I certainly would do corner.
Who do you have rated this high for like a back end of the first?
I love Chris Johnson from San Diego State. I think he's my number 1 corner of the people we're looking at. And Colton Hood is a good player too. I wouldn't mind him in this spot either. But we could go. I'll go Chris Johnson here, and then we'll get wide receiver 1 and corner 1 of the future, and Aaron Glenn. I think the Jets draft is going to be all about Aaron Glenn getting the guys that he wants to get and building the team that he wants to build. So, we're kind of guessing how that's going to look potentially. But it's really all just going to be about scheme and culture fit with Aaron Glenn this offseason.
Okay. So then we just finished the second 1 round draft. The simulator immediately kicks us into the 3rd first round. Reese, it makes sure that Moore and Tate, who were your picks previously, are off the board, so you can't pick them again. It's Reese, Moore, Tate, Bain are the first 4 picks.
Yeah, and this is where we sprint to the podium for Fernando Mendoza and don't even think twice. Yeah, I just think if the Jets are in the position to get Fernando Mendoza, especially without having to trade picks, no, why waste time?
Okay, and I want to point something out. So at the time that Anthony picked Amari Washington, Drew Alar was the 17th player on the board, and Singleton was 21. If you notice, Alar has already fallen to 18, and Singleton has already fallen to 22nd. So notice that when you skip picking players, they will eventually drop. So just wanted to point that out. Okay, so the rest of the first round, the names are the same. The teams have changed. Simpson, Lemon, Downs, Maui Noah, Delane, Fano, Woods, Hood, Falk, Tyson, Love, Vega, Parker, Sadiq, Boston, World, Styles, Hill, Washington, Johnson, Thieneman, and Basantis are off the board.
Yeah, so again, this kind of goes back to the conversation we had for Moore, where do you get him weapons? Do you just try to bolster the defense? In this scenario, I do think, and I know he hasn't played because of the injury, but like Jermod McCoy is a top 15 talent, and so if we get to see him this year, which God only knows at this point, and if he plays up to the standard that he played in 2024, I think like top 15 at least is what we're talking about, maybe even top 10. So yeah, McCoy is a pick for a great value for the Jets, potentially at 28.
Okay, so it puts us now into the first round. It's guaranteed that each of these is going to be different than the one before it. So if you're looking for a more random first round, there are advantages to doing a first round challenge because it's going to guarantee you a different first round each time you do it. This time, Delane went first overall. Moore, Tate, and Mendoza, who were your first 3 picks, are all off the board. What do you do?
So I know most people would probably say Ty Simpson here. I just can't get there with him right now. I can't say he's a top 5 pick. So in this scenario, my number 1 player, Ruben Bain, is on the board, and the Jets, I think, need to bolster the pass rush. So I'm going to take Ruben Bain, and we'll see what we could potentially do for the offense at 28 here.
Okay. So I'm looking to see if there's any new names. So make sure that Washington, Johnson, and McCoy are off the board prior to your next first round pick.
Okay, so wide receiver options are, I assume it's Bell or Concepcion.
Bell,
Brazel,
Boston's
Wayne.
off, Surratt's off. I'm looking to see Tyson and Lemon are both gone as well.
Yeah, and Carnell Tate. Yeah. Yeah, we could go Bell here. I talked about it. Like I think he's a good fit for the offense next to operating as a 2 next to Garrett Wilson, giving whoever plays quarterback next year a nice sort of underneath security blanket. Those 2 along with Mason Taylor, I think is a nice pass catching core to build around.
Okay, so now we're in the 5th first round, and again, the Jets are at 5th overall. The simulator makes sure that Moore, Tate, and Mendoza are off the board, and it won't let you pick Bain. So even though Bain hasn't been drafted, he's nowhere in the pick list. It won't let you pick Bain again.
Yeah, how many other we do 8 or 10?
We're doing 5.
Or 5.
So,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I would I guess we could do. See, like, man. I think I'll say in this scenario, if the conversation was Ty Simpson versus Arvel Reese, uh, I think that's a fascinating conversation because we talked about Arvel Reese yesterday on the linebacker show. Like, I think he's an edge at the next level, and I think Aaron Glenn would absolutely love him and love to have him on the defense as a piece to build around. So it would then just come down to, do they think Ty Simpson is a franchise quarterback or not? As I've said, I don't necessarily think he's a top 5 pick. So I'm curious to see if we take Arvel Reese here, what we do with the second pick. So we could do Arvel Reese and then see what options present us.
Okay. So now here's a good one. At 28th overall, Ty Simpson is dropped.
And if that happens, the Jets are... I think Aaron Glenn is going to dance in the war room. Because that, again, as somebody who is lower on Ty Simpson than most, if the Jets, without having to trade any draft capital, land both Arvel Reese and Ty Simpson at 28, I would be absolutely ecstatic. So we're going to take Ty Simpson. And if your next question is, which of these do I like the most? The answer is pretty easily the last one we've just done.
The last one. You see, and I designed this because I loved, Anthony, the way that you talked through that for each scenario. Like, to me, like when I designed the simulator, it was so people could do exactly what you just did. So, okay. Now, I want to show off a couple things on the simulator. So I'm going to go to the team needs section right here. And we're going to go look up the Jets. And if you look, it takes a minute for this page to build. And if we look at the Jets, there's a player list on the far side. So if I go to that player list, we're going to go look at the players that Anthony picked. So one of Anthony's picks was Amari Washington. Amari Washington was 24th on the board at the time that we picked him. He's now 22. So he moved up 2 spots. Okay. Alar and Singleton were 17 and 18. Singleton has already dropped to 23. And Alar fell to 19. So another player that Anthony took was Carnell Tate. And Tate, at the time that Anthony took him, was 23rd.
He was at 17. I saw him.
Was he at 17? Thank you. See, you already noticed.
Yeah.
So he moved up 6 spots when Anthony took him in the first round. Another player that Anthony took was Chris Johnson. He was 61 at the time that Anthony took him. And I'm just going to cheat and go to corners. He moved up to 46. Another player that Anthony took was Jermod McCoy. He was 19th when Anthony took him. He moved up to 18th. Another player Anthony took was wide receiver Chris Bell. Bell was 36th at the time Anthony took him. He's now 29th. And then he also took Arvel Reese, who was 7th on the board at the time Anthony took him, and he is still 7th. So he didn't move up. So Reese did not move up this time. So the way the simulator works is the players you pick move up when you pick them. So you actually, if you're doing a first round challenge, you do have a little bit of power, because like if Anthony did that a few times on his own, where he picked Chris Bell to the Jets. Eventually, the simulator would have Chris Bell going to the Jets when, like, I did a mock draft for Buffalo or somebody did a mock draft for a different team. So I appreciate Anthony allowing me to use the Jets to demonstrate some of the functionality there in Draft Professor. So, Anthony, do you want to let everybody know about all of the other draft content that you make?
Yeah. As always, you can find me on X at Anthony_Russo97. Posting all sorts of NFL draft stuff. I'm going to be doing a 2-round mock draft, Thanksgiving edition, once this weekend's games wrap up. So that'll be exciting. And yeah, you can find me, of course, on the Draft Professor podcast, Friday nights and Saturday mornings. I've also got my Substack, which is link is in my X bio that you can read. And I just posted my thoughts on Jeremiah Love and why I don't necessarily think he's a top 15 player in this class. So if you're interested in that, you can check that out and subscribe. And yeah, that's all I'm doing. It's getting busy right now, and it's exciting.
So for me, this is one of the best times of year for the draft cycle, because this is where we start to see like preliminary boards. Similar, you've done 24 linebackers on the podcast. You did 24 tight ends. To see like a preliminary tight end or a linebacker board or the offensive line that we just covered on this podcast, this is, for me, I love this time of year. Just to see, where do you have them versus Owen? Nobody's board is wrong. It's just being able to compare, where different evaluations are and things like that. So definitely want to say, if you are watching this podcast, give Anthony a follow, because Draft Professor cannot put this content out without Anthony, showing up on Friday, showing up on Saturday. Love Anthony. He's one of the 2 or 3 draft professors that pulls double duty and podcasts twice a week. So love having Anthony on. Lets me show off things on the Draft Professor simulator. That's the best plug I can give. So for the 110 podcasters at the Draft Professor, for everybody that is following at NFL Draft Fanatic on X and YouTube, thank you so much for watching. We will see you on a podcast again tomorrow morning. Have a good weekend, everybody.